Share screen. Okay, so hi everybody. This is Leveraging LinkedIn series session 2. We're going to talk today about networking and research. Today we're going to cover finding and making connections. We'll also talk about using the alumni tool, as well as researching employers and companies. So what we'll start with is finding and making connections. I think this is one of the biggest things that LinkedIn is used for these days. Keep in mind when we're talking about LinkedIn, LinkedIn is really all about professional connections. I heard it said once that LinkedIn is very much like the boardroom way of making connections, the business way of making connections versus something like Facebook, um, maybe TikTok and those sorts of things are more about like the backyard barbecue, the met you at a concert kind of a or at the grocery store kind of way of making connections. So keep in mind that LinkedIn is really all about those professional connections. That's not to say that you can't connect with friends. So you just have to be cognizant of what kind of things they're putting out there and so on and so forth. So I've logged into my LinkedIn here, and you can see that I'm just on my home page, and it very much looks like a feed, and it is. So there are new posts coming on. I can start a post, so I can write a post. It's like a status update. You can see I can get to my profile here. I can get to some of my groups here. I can get into the news and some LinkedIn courses over here. And I've got menus across the top. But as far as making connections go, the big deal on LinkedIn is to try to get to 500 plus connections. Now, I don't have that. If I did, you would see it underneath my name here. So let me show you what I mean by that. This guy, who's definitely a LinkedIn guru, his says 500 plus connections, and that's what LinkedIn considers a well-connected person. I'm really careful about who I connect with, so I don't quite have 500. I could go out and get it, but I haven't yet. Um, but it is something that people look for to see if you're well connected or not. Now I don't know, like, does it matter in the greater landscape of recruiting and getting hired? Probably not. Um, so just something to consider. It's just a little LinkedIn piece of knowledge for you there. Students often ask me, okay, great, 500 connections. That is an awful lot. I don't disagree with you. It is a lot. So who should you connect with? Faculty, definitely. Staff, wherever it is that you work, or staff at the college or university. Um, Coaches, any well known people in your field. Maybe you have mentors. If your parents or friends' parents or whomever it might be are, have careers and you kind of want to follow them or be connected to them, those are all great ways. So start thinking a little bit, even beyond your field. That's going to be helpful to you. Um, Other things to think about: thought leaders, whether those people are in your field or not. So you'll notice on the screen right now, I have Bill Gates up here. Why does Heather Rickrell, career counselor, follow Bill Gates? Because Bill Gates is all about how technology is changing the work world. I need to know that stuff, right? Right now he's on a climate role here. He's got a book coming out, but there's a lot of stuff that he puts out about the technology impact on the world of work. So who are those people in your field or that you think would be good to follow? The last people on that list would be alumni. Now those could be high school alumni. They could be maybe from a community college if you have attended a community or technical college. They could be UWS alumni. Anything like that works well. Um, how should you connect? The answer is personally. So you always want to send a note because that makes sure, in the mind of the person receiving your request, that you're legitimate, and it also syncs to messages. So I'm going to just click on my network here. Um, and this is just something that's at the top, in the top bar. So I have one request here I tend not to accept the people who are looking to sell me something. That's just a little thing on me, but it's going to tell me how many connections I have, how many people work on my team. I don't have a big team. How many people I follow, groups, so on and so forth. So this is really like the totality of my network beyond my one-on-one connections, which is pretty awesome. So if I just click on connections, I can see all of the people that I'm connected to, right? But as far as like how I make connections to other people, I want to give you a hint for how a tool that you can use to connect with UWS alumni. Now, the easiest way for you to find the alumni tool is to start typing University of Wisconsin Superior, and you want to make sure that the school page is the one you click on. Don't click on the Alumni Association group, although you could find connections in there, but you really want to be connected to the school to get to the alumni tool. So we'll just let this chug and it will come up here. You can get out to the website and all sorts of different things. You can see posts that the university makes, jobs that they have available. Right here is the alumni tool. Now, this is always going to pull from by connections and so on and so forth. That's going to impact the order in which I see things down here, the order in which I see people. But there are ways to sort these folks. So there are 11,450 of them. The default year is 1900. I don't know that there are too many of those class of 1900 folks around anymore, but all the way through the most recent folks. And you can see the kinds of filters that you can put on here, and you can always show more and expand that to see where they work. But there are other filters as well. So what they do, you can kind of drill down into those. Okay. So that's kind of a nice thing there. What they're skilled at, how they're connected, all of those sorts of things. Otherwise, it's going to just give you some ideas of people you might know. And what it's going to pull from first is people that, for me, because I work at the university and I'm not an alum of the university, it's going to show me usually employees, and then current and recent students is what it's going to pull for me first. So let's say, for instance, I know Heather pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and connect with her. And notice how it says you can customize this invitation. You can add a note to personalize your invitation to Heather Thompson. You should always click add a note. That's why I said, how do you connect? Personally. So I'm going to type in, hi, Heather. Would love to connect with you here on LinkedIn. Have a great day. Now, if I met Heather at a job fair, or she was in a webinar and I want to connect with her, I would say something like, hi, Heather, we were in such and such a webinar today. I'm interested in connecting with you. Something like that. Let them know how you came across their name, or how you kind of know them. They like to know that it adds that extra piece of legitimacy to your request. So I'll send that off to Heather. Okay. So hopefully, and then it will say invitation pending. So hopefully that makes sense why you would send just a short note to let them know that you are looking to connect with them and for what reason, like how you found that connection. Now we're using the alumni tool. So we're still, you can see it's highlighted here, it's bolded. We're still using the alumni tool. It is very much okay to reach out to an alum and say, I was using the alumni tool on LinkedIn. Your name popped up. We share this in common. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Are you willing to connect on LinkedIn? Whatever you would like to say. So another thing that's coming up on the side here, is people who, these are people I'm connected to. So you can kind of see, yep, I have these connections. Now look what happens when I go to, we'll just click into Monty. Okay, so I can see Monty's one of those go-getters. He's got the 500 plus connections. Now that I'm connected to Monty, I can go in and I can see who's his connections are. So it makes sense for me that Janessa was coming up on my list because she is connected to at least one of my connections, right? So I could go ahead and say, I could connect to um, Danielle, and I could say, something like, "Hi, Danielle. Um, I saw you are connected to Monty. I'm also connected with Monty. I see you, you're a program manager, and I'm interested in learning more. Are you willing to connect?" So things like that. Those are ways to um, get connected to people. Now I can go through all of Monty's connections, right? And I could find an awful lot of people. So that's another way to sort of build that connection bank, if you will. Um, let me see. One important thing to keep in mind that you do not want to mention right away that you're looking for jobs or internships. You want to focus really intently on making connections and building relationships, right? So as soon as you make that connection, it will actually pop up in your message. It syncs with your messaging. So I just opened my messaging window right here. Um, so it will say something like, let's just use Kathy here. Kathy Midday accepted your connection request, and then you can respond. I can respond to Kathy in here. So it keeps my messages in this messaging panel. And this works. This is private messaging, just like, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and so on and so forth. So nobody can see the messages but you and the other person. So that's a really nice feature. So remember, build the relationship and the connection first, and then you can start figuring out, when to ask about the jobs and the internships. It's not a question you ask right away, because then it's, what are you going to give me, and not, what can I give in return. So remember, it's a relationship. You should be thinking about what you can give in return, and even if that's just uh, something pretty simple as keeping up a conversation, that's usually good enough. So that's the alumni tool. Um, it's not really very complex, but it can be, super helpful. The other thing that you could do with the alumni tool, let me get back to it. The new version of LinkedIn is not the best sometimes to navigate with the back button. So go to alumni. So here we are again. Um, if you were to go into one of these, let's just go here for something fun to try. Um, it's supposed to filter that out. Hmm. Oh, it actually might be. Although some of these people don't currently live in that area, but maybe that's where they have their from piece set up um, in their profiles. So we can't control that piece, but these are people who are, either from that area or currently living in that area. So if that helps you figure out like how to filter them, and again, once you connect with these folks, you should be able to get in and see their connections, and then from those connections, build from their connections at that point. So there's and it just keeps going on and on as you find people. So if you don't do any filters in the alumni tool, you get all, what was that, 11,450 or something like that. So it gets to be a lot to look through. And hopefully, if the algorithms are working correctly, it's pulling based on what you already have put in your profile. so that for the most part, the most relevant are going to be coming up first, or so they say, if the algorithm works. Um, I'll go into researching employers and companies next. So I'm just going to go to my home page. Um, so last fall, I had perhaps the most interesting career conversation I've ever had with a student, and it was about wanting to work at Disney. And so when you search something, notice I just put Disney in there. There's people and there's jobs, there's company, and it's an entertainment company. And then there's showcase pages. And then there are groups. Okay. And then there are people that work there. And so this is a person, Daniel Disney. So this is getting like less and less relevant the further down we go. Now, um, this person was, I would say, um, interested in probably this piece right here more than anything. So notice what comes up here. Now I can follow them, and that's not making a connection. It's just following them so that any of their posts will come up in my feed. I can visit their website and I can click on more here, which I could share in a message. I can report abuse. It can also follow them here. I can click through these tabs. I can learn more about them. I can see their posts. I can look at the jobs that they have open. I can search the jobs. I can go through them. I can save them. And then when I go into my profile, I can see my saved jobs. I can expand it, all of those sorts of things. I can see the people who are on LinkedIn that work there. So look, they have a huge bank of people, and you can search them when in most of the same ways that you can for the alumni tool. So that's pretty consistent through LinkedIn. And then you can see what sorts of videos they have posted. Um, and then look at their video catalog. So it's pretty extensive here as well. Now, there's a lot of information here, and it's probably a lot of the same information that's on their website. I encourage you to still look at both, because the website may have a little bit more detail about more of the things that this particular set of Disney, this subset of experience and products, there might be more on the website of what this particular subset has to offer. You might get a better idea of their mission, vision, and values from the website, although this is a good place to start. You'll want to really pay attention, especially if you're looking for jobs. I would go into this people portion right here and scroll down to where you actually start seeing the people, um, and pay attention to what their job titles are. If you can see those, a lot of them you should be able to click into, but you can see there many of them have their titles here. Um, it's good to know how a company is somewhat organized and how you might fit into it. The other thing is, let's say that you want to intern at Disney. So let's put intern in. Oh, nothing's coming up now. So there must not be anybody in this section that's currently linked to Disney on the intern piece. Last fall there was there were two people, and I encouraged the student who was interested in this to reach out and message those two interns and connect with them to see how they got in. So that's the other piece that you can use the researching employers piece for. The other thing that researching employers can be super useful for is figuring out, okay, not only what jobs do they have open and sort of what titles, but are those jobs posted also on their website? Are you finding them in other places? If so, you know those are legitimate. You may also be able to find and research perhaps the person who's mentioned as a contact on the bottom of that job announcement or somewhere in that job announcement. So yeah, you can go ahead and search the jobs. We can try intern here again and see if something comes up. So it looks like they have a lot of jobs open. This one is in China. You can change the filters up above here and so on and so forth. Um, so again, I could go in and I could try to, dial down to maybe, the Buenos Aires, the Argentinian um, Disney holdings and see what they have. So I can search employers and research employers in so many different ways. So lots of ways to get at that. Um, I think that's pretty much it for how to find and make connections, how to use the alumni tool, how to research employers and companies. You really just have to get in there and use it, and hopefully it'll start to make sense. So next week we are going to use session 3 to talk about how to use LinkedIn for professional development. So working with groups, using the follow function, which I sort of introduced today, as well as using LinkedIn Learning.